Hello, 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 class, and happy Monday. We are here, PB142, week one. We're in Lebanon. We are continuing on the journey of delicious flavors, right? Uh, Remember, so important, soak in those dried chickpeas, okay? That is going to give you the best result, the only result we're looking for within the falafel for this week, okay? It's going to result in a nice crumbly texture that gets crispy and crunchy exterior with a nice tender bite on the inside, okay? Remember, it can get a little finicky trying to get that together. If you need to, you can add a little bit of that extra flour, as it's noted in the recipe page. Add a little bit extra flour. Maybe you're using regular flour, or if you happen to have chickpea flour on hand, you can also use that, okay? Hold that together and get it to firm up. Now, that being said, of course, we talked about little tips and tricks for your baba ganoush as well. You can char on the gas first up with your eggplant and then finish it roasting it in the oven. This is going to give you a nice finished soft texture because an undercooked eggplant, raw eggplant, is grainy and not ideal. We want silken smoothiness, right, from this baba ganoush, okay? Also remember, the bulgur salad, it is heavy on the parsley. Make a half recipe if needed, okay? Because it can get kind of pricey. You need a lot of lemon juice and a lot of parsley to execute that. Also remember that soaking time is critical on the bulgur, or perhaps utilizing instant couscous or something like buckwheat groats can be the best substitutions. Otherwise, if you're utilizing another grain, you do need to cook it and then add that acidulated water to the cooking process so that it gives a similar flavor profile. All right. Now, on Wednesday, when we started talking about Lebanon and Lebanese cuisine, I mentioned, as some of you might know, I currently live in Mexico. I will obviously be going into awesome Mexican detail in week 4, but wanted to talk a little bit about this idea of the impact of Lebanese cuisine in Mexico because it's very interesting. So I'm going to pull up these kibbeh, which are traditionally Lebanese, as we mentioned and covered in class, and see how the kibbeh got to Mexico, okay? And what does kibbeh look like in Mexico? As well as maybe you've heard of the infamous and very famous, actually, not infamous at all, but tacos al pastor, okay? Tacos al pastor, which are cooked on a spit, okay? So let me pull this up and you're going to start seeing where we see Lebanese cuisine, Lebanese immigrants coming into Mexico and having an impact on that cuisine. Remember, we are moving constantly, right? The movement of people, products, flavors, cooking techniques has been going on forever, okay? And we see how it morphs, right? Even if we look at things like, we talked about week 2 of last week with Italy, right? And what happened when the Italian immigration in the US, and how did that transform? And how do we see these Italian dishes or Italian American dishes popping up, right? We see how they get morphed and modified, right? Based on movement. Remember, food connects us. Food can make us feel at home. So oftentimes we try to replicate. Maybe it's a smell, think about some dish that your mom or an aunt or a grandparent made that takes you to a special time, takes you to a holiday. And that transforms you, right? It makes you, it's not just feeding your stomach, but your heart and your soul, right? That's where we get. So we think about wanting to recreate flavors or dishes from where we came from in another country, and we have to adapt and utilize. So take a look at this. I think it's pretty awesome. I'm going to pull up the class page in your interactive reading, and then we're going to flip it and switch so you can see this direct connection between the cooking styles of Lebanon and Mexico and how it can be morphed, all right? I just think it's fascinating, and I hope you do too. So let me get this pulled up really quickly. Takes a little time to load, as we all know, but we're going to get on in there. All right. Also, I do, the interactive learning page is so great with these, beautiful, we're talking about rose water and tahini, right? Now, of course, we get into halal as well. We've got, that's that beautiful salad we're going to be making, right? All 3 of those dishes here coming up. Now, let me get this pulled up. I think we should see. Where is it? It's not here. You know what? It might be in the I think it's actually in the slideshow that I covered. So let me just show you what this is. So we see tacos al pastor. And this version we talked about, this is how we see this cooking, okay? On a spit like this, okay? And cooking around flame and fire, okay? I'm going to say trompa because that's how we're going to look it up and get the best results here. So this is, what else does this look like? If you know what gyros, have you ever seen gyros being cooked, right? Lamb or shawarma, also very Middle Eastern, right? When we have this beautiful meat, right? Being cooked, getting stacked together, marinated and stacked. Now we took a flip on that and we talked about this in the slideshow, talking about doing that with cauliflower or mushrooms, right? And really kind of flipping it on its head. So we have this, which is really coming from Middle Eastern techniques, spit roasting and cooking. And that, boom, comes into tacos al pastor, right? Which is the same spit that we see for shawarma, okay? But change the flavor, change the location, and we go. Now, here we go. Let's keep going down further in this word. We've got kibbeh, right? Now, this is, we know, we covered this Lebanese dish, okay? And we go in and we see kibbeh. All right, we've got bulgur, again, using as our outside. There are two different types of kibbeh, okay? Kibbeh, which is based, there's different forms of making it. You can make it in a dish like this that's baked, or you can do these deep fried version, right? So we see these beautiful form. The form is like a torpedo, and it's shaped like that because you're building it in your hand. So that form is literally this kind of cup shape, right? That's where it tapers off, okay? And you're building that in your hand and folding it, right? This one's filled with meat, but you could also fill that with plenty of different things, okay? From, you know, alt-based, alternative plant-based meat substitute, like Impossible Burger, or something like textured vegetable protein, which is based on soy, which oftentimes is used to mimic the texture of meat, okay? So again, you do have these two versions. You've got kibbeh, where you can box it out, then kibbeh naya, which is going to be raw meat, okay? Essentially like a tartare. But let's keep going, all right? So now we see, okay, here's kibbeh, right? These are Lebanese, right? This is a Lebanese dish. So when I heard kibbeh being called on the beaches of Mexico, I thought, what the heck is going on? Well, let's take a look there. So here's that kibbeh. Now, we'll just switch it to kibbeh yucateca, okay? Or Yucatan. And, lo and behold, here is Lebanese influence showing up in Mexican cuisine, okay? Oftentimes filled with either cheese inside, or meat, or soy textured vegetable protein. Now, the garnish and how we serve it is a little bit different down here. They're serving it up with cabbage slaw, essentially really spicy, and usually quite often a nice habanero salsa, okay? Maybe some pickled red onions as well, okay? But there that is, okay? Kibbeh, Lebanese in Mexico. Okay, this is how the world is working. It is wild. It is incredible. It's pretty fascinating. Again, not to mention, you've got the influence of the pastor and pan Arabic pan, which is essentially like a nice fluffy version of their pita that we oftentimes see. Okay, again, this movement and migration of people is really quite fascinating. All right, now continuing on, if we look at what I was mentioning, the kibbeh naye. Okay, this again, very, very traditional Lebanese dish made out of raw meat, okay? But why am I showing you this? Well, first of all, we want to learn about all the foods, right? Just because we're studying plant-based doesn't mean we don't know about those meat-based dishes, because guess what? Now, Lebanese and Turkish food, while they are not the same, there are a lot of similarities, okay? And while I was living and working in Turkey, I came across this other very interesting dish that is basically a way to kind of resemble this, I'm going to pull it up one second. And it's made out of bulgur and pepper paste and red paste. Because this can be formed in kind of different ways. It's oftentimes a dish that's made with raw meat. Again, this is Turkish, but there's a lot of similarities when we think about flavor profiles and certain ingredients or techniques. So let me pull this up. One second. And I'm going to take you down into another transition where we see this, a flip on something that would be raw. I believe it's çiğ köfte. Yes. Okay. So here we go. So remember I talked about that word kofta, right? Kofte. We're going to see that in all types of countries. It basically is a type of a meatball, right? So hold on. So this is pretty cool. So let me just show you where we get this, because the original dish, okay, is often made with raw meat. However, like I said, we do a switch. Even other countries are doing switches, making switches for plant-based years ahead of when plant-based became a trend, okay? So if we look at, you've got the çiğ köfte, and çiğ köfte is essentially made with bulgur, okay? I'm going to pull up a visual of this so you can take a look at this and see. So oftentimes, as I mentioned, this would be traditionally made of raw meat that can be formed together, but then this one is not. Now, interesting enough, these little forms, these little divots are made from your hands and squishing it together and how it's formed. Again, this could be made, you take your traditional kofta, right, your meatball, but this is made with pomegranate molasses, which is very prominent in both Lebanese and Turkish cuisine, lemon juice, pepper paste, spices, a beautiful love of spices. And this bulgur wheat really needs to make it be kneaded, okay, and worked for a long time to make it soft and edible, because it's, again, raw, okay? But when we get into, like I said, this is really interesting, okay? So when we think about this, it used to be made of ground beef and fine bulgur, but maybe during religious or holidays, you're not eating meat, and then of course not wanting to eat raw meat, okay? Now when we get into it, there we go. These are ingredients, that same fine bulgur. So maybe, in a week or two, you might want to, hey, I've got that bulgur that I purchased for the tabbouleh. Let's give this a go. You can see a lot of onion and garlic, tomato puree, tomato paste, pepper paste, sumac, cumin, allspice, again, very typical, black pepper, hot pepper, olive oil, your pomegranate molasses, and parsley. And this all gets mixed together, worked in, that the pepper paste and the tomato get together. And we're essentially treating it as if we were treating the same thing as we were making it in a traditional meat setting, okay? And then boom, plated up and ready to go. All right. Oftentimes, this is served up with lettuce, these gorgeous lettuce boats, which really bring a freshness to these dishes. And you can see, we see this with, there we go, there it is. We've got your kofta, your bulgur meatless balls, topped up, consuming with a bunch of lemon, fresh herbs, and all of those beautiful lettuce leaves, okay? So again, would be traditionally made out of a raw beef, but we're switching it, and they've been switching it for years. So it's pretty cool when you think about all these other tricks of plant-based that have existed forever. And again, served it up some pickles and your lettuce and your lemon. And again, this is, when we looked at that, right, we went into the Lebanese version, PB142, right? Again, utilizing these traditions and putting a switch on it and making a plant-based, even has a kind of a color similar to a raw meat. Now, I also mentioned the keftes, and that word, right? Kofta, kefte, we will see how, look, okay, you can have Indian kofta, but look at this, keftedes, right? We just had Greek, right? Maybe that sounds familiar. That word, kefte, right? That is the base, kefte, kofta, kufta. All right, we're going to constantly see those. I want you to always be paying attention. It's how you start to make connections, right? Start bringing bands, making bridges, okay? So very fascinating. again, just tons of really interesting connections on how we move around the world and transform dishes and everything. So pretty cool. I think it's fantastic. Here is that beautiful tomb that I talked about, right? That is basically your already vegan garlic sauce, because no eggs are made in basically a vegan aioli. And very, very delicious. Tarator is also a really great sauce that could be perfect with your falafel. If you've got tahini, extra lemon juice, a little bit of cold water, and then garlic and parsley. Okay, serving that up, ready to enjoy. All righty. Without further ado, class, we will sign off for now. I hope that you have a wonderful Monday. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. Let's stay strong. Let's keep it pushing. Knock out your discussion forums. Get your week 1 submitted on time. And we are all systems go. Take care, be well, and catch you on Wednesday.